Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network. Great to have you with us on the program today. We encourage you to follow and like us on Facebook, facebook.com/This Week in America. Matt Shea, our guest on the program tonight, he considers himself to be a developing author. I would disagree with that. I think he's already arrived. He's written 5 books. One of the books we'll be talking about tonight is really an interesting story, Chase, a Special Person, and the Discovery of Teddy Downing. Matt Shea, welcome to This Week in America. Great to have you with us on the program.
I appreciate this so much, Rick. I listen to you all the time, and it's like Johnny Carson or Paul Harvey. I'm one of many that feels that I've known you my entire life. You're always there when we reach out, and my God, here I am talking to you.
Well, that's very flattering, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. I feel like I know you as well from reading your books, and I said in the developing author, which you consider yourself, you're sort of like born to be an author, and you do interesting stories talking about people that started a little bit behind the 8 ball, some people that we have compassion for, and all that I know goes back to your family, the Shea family and the Shea family values. Talk about that growing up and where you got the compassion and empathy for others that comes across in all the fine writing that you do.
My mom and dad are terrific. My mother at present is in the hospital on the verge of returning. She fractured her hip. She's doing good. She's all smiles.
Oh, great.
And Dad's exciting because the family has a constant rotation of support, harmony, all for one and one for all. My mom and Dad were introduced on a blind date in World War II. And 6 months later, they married, and they were opposites that attract. Mom is a Catholic girl who would go to church 7 days a week, months at a time when she could. And Dad was a guy from the East Coast with a high IQ. They were exact opposites that paired up perfect. Growing up with Mom and Dad, I never heard a door slam. And if a voice was projected, it was because of distance, not out of wrath. And our parents were great because if the kid had a good day, they would remind us that we were not better than the kid across the street. If we had a bad day, they'd get us to laugh at ourselves, to laugh at them, dust us off, and say, hey, come on in, the water's fine, we're all that way. They always kept an even keel, and Dad once said, and he was proud when he said this, he said, we're middle American, that's what we are.
Well, and he made everyone in the family and your mother accepting of everybody. Nobody's different. You alluded to that just a second ago. We're all sort of in this together, and we're all in this as equals together.
That's exactly it. I would like to do my honor roll real quick. My mom and dad have been married for 67 years, and they act like silly high school teenagers still in love, and they're fun, and they're the first ones to laugh about themselves. It's pulling teeth to get advice from them. They're very good at saying, we don't know, and they commend an effort, and they're that way. My mother, again, Roman Catholic mom, she made it a point to have a Hanukkah bush during the Christmas years for the Christmas holidays, for our Jewish friends. And she always tipped the scales even. My sister Kathy, who I dedicated my book Elmo to, she's married to Johann Wasserman, and his family is in prayer with us right now because his mother her health is failing at age 92. And so we wish the Wassermans out of Groundskeeper, Germany, the very best, and Johann the very best. But my sister Kathy, she's a nurse. My mom and dad are now living with her. She has had her house reconstructed, so my parents have the downstairs, an elevator that goes to the top where they could look over Lake Union, the city. And her and my brother Frank are nurses. It's all catering to them. And Kathy is constantly doing work overseas, giving herself to the Red Cross and other things, any way she could assist with her medical attention, while her husband, Johann, assists her when he can. And then going down the list, I have my brother Frank. He's a nurse. He works together with my sister Kathy to help our parents, and he's got a terrific family. His wife, Jan, his sons, Ryan and Kevin, who have just made him grandparents. And life is good there. Going a little further down, we have my brother Dan and his partner Lloyd. Great guys. Lloyd is 60. We're going to throw him a big birthday thing this weekend. And then there's my brother Paul. He married a beautiful woman from Kenya, just gorgeous and fun, Rosalind. And they have 2 kids, Robin and Lauren. And those women from Kenya, if you've ever noticed, they've got the most beautiful dresses. And on occasion, I get tea from the country, puts out beautiful tea, just delicious tea, among other things. And there's my sister, Molly. She's a great friend. I dedicated my present book, Chase, a Special Person, and the discovery of Teddy Downing to her. Her man that she's with, husband, I would say, Mike Marvik, and their 2 boys, Alex and Little Mark. They're all different. They all have their distinction, and that our neighborhood is distinction. We have a multi-ethnic upbringing, and so it just keeps stirring the pot favorably, and we keep admiring and learning from one another. But number one is my daughter, Laura. I am that guy that has Daddy's little girl, and she's got a great mom. My ex-wife, Janine, is a tremendous person, and Laura got the proverbial big backyard, and she was always grateful that her parents were friends. You could tell that we're family and friends. We're just not spouses anymore. And my daughter, when I retired, she took me out to quite a dinner, and she bought me a laptop and said, Dad, you like to write. You're now an author. And she demanded that I got in gear with this, and she would read my manuscripts and encourage me. And I wrote a book on Kindle called Laura Town in her honor. And she's my number one fan. She just loves me.
Our guest on This Week in America is Matthew Starr, Matt Starr. You can find his information. I'll give you a couple of websites here. The main one to go to is Matt Shea, SHEA books.com, mattsheabooks.com. Shea'sBooksAlso.com you can go to and get some information. And, of course, link onto our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and we'll have the link on there as well. Matthew Shea, our guest on the program. And it's interesting, you mentioned your daughter, and I know you've said this is sort of neat because I can sort of relive my childhood through my daughter as well. So besides getting the laptop, she's been a great inspiration to you, hasn't she?
She has been a nonstop inspiration. And I was involved with the campfires with her, the PTA, the school carnivals, and just how enthused she was, because she never asked for much. She would instead show me what she's done. And, for example, the artwork children does, she would share it equally between her mom and dad, and her mom and dad could exchange pieces that. We've always had that with her, and she's that typical child that would pick flowers, give it to you, smile, and wanted to hear how your day was, and then she would explain how her day was and just share it with you. And so anybody who has a daughter out there, or a son for that matter, you understand what I'm saying. We all have that wonderful gift about it.
And we can relate so much to the books that you've written. I mentioned the 5 that Matt Shea, our guest in the program, mattsheabooks.com is the website. Dealing with everyday life, the common people, and we'll talk specifically about some of the books in a few minutes here. But you can tell this as you're talking about the family. There's so much inspiration for you there as a human being, as well as inspiration as a writer. You were a union man. You worked for 32 years, and that really established sort of an extension of the family, who you are. It made you who you are today as an individual, as well as a writer, didn't it?
Yes, it did. I attended college for 3 years at Washington State University, and while I did that, I would send out job applications, resumes, and so forth. And then I hit the crossroads where the Teamsters Union offered me full-time work. So I had to sit down with my dad, a heart-to-heart, and he said, try this. It's an apprenticeship in its own right. It's a trade school in its own right. He said, stay there long enough to get vested. You'll have a retirement waiting for you. You will learn the trade. You'll make yourself more diversified. Well, I'm a natural blue-collar guy, and when I got into this, that was my forte. That was me. And so the working world has been very good to me. I've always had good jobs. The companies were great to me. I was always fortunate to have a job to go to. And the people I worked with, they were great. They were exactly like my neighborhood. They were all kind of different, none higher or lower.
The book I'd like to talk about, and the most recent from Matt Shea, is Chase, a Special Person, and the Discovery of Teddy Downing. Talk about Chase and Teddy. These are really special people, and the book is so inspiring. Talk a little bit of background about the 2 characters.
What inspired me about Chase, I have a very good friend named Renee Klaus, and she's dual citizenship, America, Canada, who is next to me as I speak here. And when we go up north to Canada, she has a nephew by the name of Jeremy. And Jeremy is, I would say, what's the proper word here, politically correct? He is of a special education type. And what he does is he works at the local food bank and helps people. He works part-time at a local Safeway. When people see him, they fall in love. And there is just a natural innocence that's pure honesty. When you're with him, he's strictly honest. He's happy to be with you, and he doesn't realize he has somewhat of a celebrity status. When you're seen with him, there's quite a social thing that comes with it, a social grace. And so when I write the Chase Manfield stories, it is specifically Jeremy I'm thinking of, and just the good luck charm he is, because the longer you're with him, the more humble you get, and the more honest you become about other people. But with his simplicity, he has no airs. He simply lays the cards down face up and is direct about it. Point A to point B. It's great medicine. It's inspiring.
Well, it is, and as you read that, it sort of gives you a different perspective and maybe gets you to be a little retrospective and dealing with your own feelings. There is a stigma placed on them, but only from the weak. And I think that's something that's really interesting, that those that are maybe have a tendency to put down other people, they're dealing with some insecurities themselves, aren't they?
One of the foremen at work once explained to me, and I'm sure we've all heard this, whenever you have an indexed finger pointing, you have three more coming back. A childhood friend of mine, Jay Turner, and this is for my Beacon Hill days. I knew Jay years before kindergarten. His sister, who is my age, has MS. And so at a young age, I see someone my age who's on crutches, who has hearing aids, but who communicates and expresses herself very well. And I was talking to Jay the other day, and I said, you know, your sister Lori, her connections with the community, the church, her faith, I think she's more content, more happy than all of us put together. And he agreed with that. And as I say these words, Jay's probably looking out the front window of his shop, because that was the old dime store in our neighborhood. Well, when he looks out the front window and up in the hills, he sees my house, my bedroom, looking back. It's still the same old neighborhood with those values. And his sister, Lori, really was an eye-opener long before I entered the school system.
Matt Shea is our guest on the program. Information on his books available at mattsheabooks.com. Shea is S-H-E-A. Also, shaysbooks.com is a website that has information there as well of the 5 books that have been written by Matthew. What we're talking about right now is Chase, a Special Person, and the discovery of Teddy Downing. It's a story that deals with courage, love, understanding. It takes us all the way through the emotions, and in the end, why everybody is grateful for a Chase and a Teddy in their lives, aren't they?
You better believe it. There is something about being humbled and being able to drop your guard, and you get to be yourself. You're fine exactly who that you are. And these very people, that's what they are. They never deviate from that. They don't have a facade. We have to come around and take that shell off and, like them, just be ourselves. It works out for the best. It's so clean and efficient, and that's the lesson they gave us. It's a natural thing.
Well, and it's interesting, as you read the book, we are learning as we go, but it's not preachy, it's not laid out to be a lesson, it's a natural progression. And when it's over with, you really feel good. Is that what you want people to take away from your books when they finish?
Exactly. I want people to feel warm about it, to feel a little foolish and embarrassed, because we just have to be ourselves. And again, to take a good look at ourselves and a second look at those people that we think are a little odd and a little different. And when I write the book, The Discovery of Teddy Downing, he's a typical kid in America. He's being raised by his grandparent, a lone grandparent, and he understands that there are those that will give him a stigma. Well, he has an eye for pain. He can see it in others as well. And he does his little tricks, his little magic, to let them know that they do fit in. And there is something about a Chase or a Teddy, they're the missing ingredient. You feel better. You didn't have to pretend to be something better or something that you weren't. just being yourself as they naturally are every step through life.
Couple minutes left in the program, going by way too quickly. Matt Shea is our guest on the program. Information available at mattsheabooks.com. SHEA is how you spell Shea. The books are, of course, available at Amazon as well. Who inspired you? Who were some of the authors that when you were growing up and you were thinking, I would like to do this when I have the time in my life, and then the laptop from your daughter? Who actually has inspired you as a writer?
Absolutely, Andy Griffith. I love the Andy Griffith show, everything about Mayberry, RFD, the Barney Fifes, everything. It was always a lateral movement and never a chain of command, just like the neighborhood, just like the family I grew up in, the schools, the jobs I've held. And it's always half a dozen versus 6, where it makes a complete circle, where everybody had a method to their madness, and it played out perfect. We scratched each other's back. We have a happy ending. But nobody got famous, nobody went to prison, nobody got filthy rich. We just had a better understanding that we walk the way we do, and it harmonizes just right. In the long run, it turns out just right. Andy Griffith, that's the guy I look up to.
When you go to Matt's website, mattsheabooks.com, you will get his personal email, and you really seriously encourage that feedback. A lot of people say, I'm interested in what you have to say, but you actually value what people have to say, and that really impacts where you go forward as a writer, doesn't it?
It certainly does, because I'm a classic example of not being perfect either. And one of my favorite sayings, half of being smart is knowing what you're dumb at. And Tom Sawyer had a great one, when in doubt, tell the truth. I take it as a compliment when somebody takes the time to look at my stuff and they give feedback, but I don't need a compliment. They can give me constructive criticism. This is the almighty English language. You're going to find a ding or something questionable, or if I hit the gray area, was I or was I not politically correct on a sensitive issue? It's all good stuff. I'll never be perfect. I will never be a final product as a writer. But it's like that man in that rowboat that's cut in half. If he keeps rowing, he doesn't sink. And that's my cause here. I want constant feedback, because without other people, I have absolutely nothing to work with.
And you get that as you have it. You mentioned before the cup of tea, the pot of tea you put on. You get everybody together, friends and relatives in the neighborhood. You sit down, you watch a little Alfred Hitchcock, and sometimes the parties go on after midnight. And you actually have input with people. You actually learn, observing and listening to what they have to say.
Can my good friend Ella say hello to you? She's 79, and her 93-year-old brother walks around the neighborhood and is at the library. She's one of them. She's just going to say hello for a split second.
That is very nice. I would love to be able to say hello.
Hello there.
Hello there. One of Matt's fans. Is he giving you some tea now? Are you sitting around with a little tea this afternoon?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we're having a good time listening to this interview, and he sounds like he's doing wonderfully well.
He's doing a great job.
We're very proud of him and love him very much.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us and talk about Matt. We love the books, and I know that he's shared all of that with you, and I'm sure you're his biggest fans in the neighborhood. Thank you for talking with us. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you very much for that, Rick. Ella lived right next door to me on the other side of the wall, and we became friends in the hallway, the laundry room. And so we would watch Alfred Hitchcock, and then I would read my manuscripts, and very often her and others, we would be here well past midnight, laughing up a storm, getting ideas, going over it, and the encouragement. If I slide in Ella, I absolutely got to have Renee say hello. She's one of the guys. She's right here. It'll be quick, and here we go.
That is fine. Hi, Renee. How are you?
No, I was one of the guys.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means, but that means you're accepted, just like everybody is there. Thank you for joining us on the program and being part of Matt Shea, who's our guest on this week's program. His book's available at mattsheabooks.com. And I'm assuming you've read all the books and you're a big fan.
Oh, yes. Are you kidding? Matthew is awesome. The first time I met him, I knew he was a very special person. And I just wanted to continue our friendship, and I've encouraged him to keep going in his writing. I helped a lot in the beginning. He doesn't need me as much, but Thank goodness.
Well,
Anyway,
you had him going in the right direction, and he's doing an excellent job. Thanks, Renee.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, here he is.
Thank you.
Rick, thank you for letting my cheering section get a piece of
That
this.
is not a problem. I got about 30 seconds left in the program, and I do want to talk about a fundraiser that you've been involved in there because it's a community of people that look out for each other. And you were telling me before the program about a young lady there, still in her teens, that had an accident, going through some tough times, but it sounds like she's bouncing back pretty well.
Her name is Emily Ann Cooling, and her sister, Bailey Vyerl, has put together a fund for her, and it's called www.gofundme.com 6111W. And on New Year's Day, she was in an accident, and she is paralyzed with a 9% chance of walking again. But she's resilient, happy. I keep in touch with her. I visited her the other night at Harborview Hospital in Seattle. She's there with tons of friends, flowers, balloons, smiling. She loves to read, and she's entertaining the thought of writing, and I know she'll be dynamite. And so I dedicate this radio interview specifically towards Emily, the Vyerl Press coffee shop that is doing everything they can to help support her in the fundraiser, and her family. They've got to cover a lot of things, including economically, and to make the transition for a girl who is going to continue life without being able to walk with that 9% chance.
Well, I'm sure you will be there to help her through all of this and guide her. Writing would be an excellent outlet for her, and you do such a nice job yourself. It's been a pleasure having you on the program. Our guest has been Matthew Shea, Matt Shea. His website is mattsheabooks.com, SHEA. 5 books are available talking about the most recent chase, A Special Person, and the discovery of Teddy Downing. Matt, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Your compassion and interest for others is contagious. It's been a pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you for taking time to talk about your background and the fine work you're doing.
Thank you very much. You've always been there for me, and now I know you, Rick. This is a very special moment in my life.
Thank you.
So
Same
much.
for me as well, and I really appreciate you sharing everything with us on the program. And again, Matt's work available, his books, at mattsheabooks.com. You're listening to This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network.